I'm glad that he pointed it out. I'm glad that he put him on blast, because people in West Baltimore have been putting Elijah Cummings on him on blast for years. Ever since he's been in office, he never did anything for us. Like I said, if he's supposed to be from this neighborhood, like I said, supposed to be, the rats just didn't come. These houses just didn't get tore down. They've been like this. If he would take the time out to come over here and see how things are, maybe he'd be better at his job. Thank you.
If you can see how big the tree is in this row home, you will notice this didn't happen overnight. You think these steps are okay? This should be, right? It's just typical row home in West Baltimore. You can see more trash here as well. Literally no back to it. Just trees that have grown there for years.
The president actually responded to Elijah Cummings, and what he said was definitely true. He hasn't done anything for us. For the last, I think he's been in office over 20 years?
30.
30? Okay, so I was like 18 back then, and he hasn't done anything for us.
And all
they
this
for dumping grounds.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Meanwhile, they're worried about the kids at the border.
Right, exactly. And
but this is how actual American citizens gotta live and deal with.
I wonder how the Mexican like.
And man, now tell me,
it's gotta
me
be
living
worse
in this
for
house
them.
with all this, tell me I didn't have rats and rodents. He told me I was lying.
Who?
Oh my goodness.
Remember.
Oh, well, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's common sense.
He told me I was lying. There was no rats and rodents. We just didn't want to pay.
You can see that it's terrible.
And then y'all want to know about the houses. He hasn't done anything. Today is Saturday, July the 27th, 2019, not 1819. It's today. It's a little bit after 6 p.m.
3 to 6 months. I mean, he said 2 to 3 months just to bring me a trash can like that.
And the reason why I picked this already to show you is because of the colleges, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They spent all that money on the college and just left everything around it just like this. Look up in there.
But do people live in the college area?
I don't know. All these houses are like this.
You can
This
tell
whole
me.
neighborhood. That's why I say, Ty, I know the best neighborhood. All of this stuff is like this.
Well, you did.
Yeah, I was like,
Wow, just think, it's probably homeless people live over here somewhere.
The house, as far as the house and everything, like I said, he has never done anything for not even one person that I know of. I never heard anybody say anything about him. And people want to talk about Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. Why is this man over there taking care of people at the border? We hungry. We need a place to stay. We feel like we're in a concentration camp. And it's just sad. He worried more about them than his own people. It's just crazy.
So you could have people living right next door to empty ones all the time.
Well, you see
yeah,
where I
just
live
about,
at.
it's like that in the city, just about every other 2 or 3 houses, well, at least 1 or 2 of them are going to be empty.
But you seen that where I live at.
Right.
You can see this house right here, look in that window, you can tell they're clean and perfectly up to par, but look at the house next to them.
Yep.
Rat infested. There's so many rats and mouses living there. It's terrible. And then people just throw their trash right out back. That's crazy.
But the city doesn't come to get it.
But they won't pick it up. They will not pick that up because it's not in the can. If it's not one of them green cans, they're not going to touch it. That's what they told me. They said if it's a bad, and what they do is some other people come with some orange stickers, right? And they'll go through your trash, and whoever's name is on any mail, they put an orange sticker on there, and you'll get a fine for that. So at least they're doing that.
I'll take us. Remember where I was? Oh, this is the front.
And it's right next to the college.
Yeah, in the front is the college.
The college is right here.
You spent all this money on Coppin itself, but left the neighborhood alone. It's
Hey,
raggedy.
Kim.
Excuse me for venting like this, world, but it breaks my heart to see this. It does. This neighborhood, the last time this neighborhood was thriving was 2003. 2003. That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. And it's just sad. And then they want to take the houses that's look nice on the outside. They come around film houses that look nice on the inside, outside, but really don't nobody live in them houses. and they tore up from the floor.
Hello everyone, welcome to NeoUnrealist. Big kerfuffle over the weekend after President Trump criticized the men and women of CBP, while the Baltimore part of Cummings' own district, Maryland's 7th district, I believe, while Cummings' district sits there in terrible shape. Now, as you might expect, whenever the president makes any comment, any tweet, even one that is plainly evident and true, Elijah Cummings and the Democrats react with their typical accusations. Now, of course, they don't address the substance of what Trump actually said, but they just go on and defend themselves by ascribing nefarious motives to the president instead. Now, that mashup video that I edited together in that roughly 5-minute intro, that was footage taken by Baltimore County Republican Central Committee member Kimberly Klashik. Now, obviously the source is a partisan one, so take that with a grain of salt. But no one could deny the reality of the video that she took of the area. Let's look at the core claims that Trump made about the Baltimore part of Elijah Cummings' Maryland 7th district and gauge for ourselves their validity. First and foremost, the Dems are braying as if it's somehow taboo to even bring up the fact that a particular politician has chronically failed his constituents by bringing attention to the bad state of affairs in their area of responsibility. Well, someone forgot to pass that message along to Bernie Sanders during the 2016 presidential election cycle, as he went to Baltimore. He was given a guided tour of the area by local Democrats and declared West Baltimore to be like a, quote, third world country, if you can believe that. Yes, he said that anyone who took the walk that he did around that area would, quote, remember the words of one of the leading Democrats for the 2020 presidential nomination. He said anyone who took the walk he did through the neighborhood would, quote, you would think that you were in a third world country. In a tweet a few months after his guided tour of West Baltimore, and he called it a third world country, he tweeted out himself on Twitter that residents of Baltimore's poorest boroughs have lifespans shorter than people living under dictatorship in North Korea. That is a disgrace. I guess having a D after your name allows you to compare West Baltimore to some of the worst places in the world and not get any flack from Elijah Cummings and the Democrats. But last time I checked, hardly anyone is booking vacation time in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I'm going to digress on that point, though, because I guess you could call that a bit of whataboutism on my part by pointing at Bernie Sanders and going, hey, Bernie said it too. All right, you've got me there. Let's try and look at the areas that Trump primarily addressed and judge the validity of them for ourselves. Rat infestation, the general cleanliness and livability, since the argument was in relation to Democrat criticisms of the same in CBP facilities, basically the desirability for human habitation, since Trump mentioned human beings not wanting to live there. It's circa 2014, but apparently Baltimore's former mayor, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, a Democrat the last time I checked, she sure seemed to express that Baltimore has a rat problem. Her words exactly in this tweet? Too many rats! Exclamation point. I wonder if Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, as I mentioned, a Democrat, describing the situation in her own city as too many rats! Exclamation point, was she perhaps making that up too? Well, maybe not, because Orkin, if you could believe this, the Orkin Company has a top 10 rattiest cities list that they've maintained since 2014. Baltimore has made that top 10 list of rattiest cities every year since its inception. Now, you would think that the country's foremost commercial operation involved in rat mitigation would know a thing or two about the state of Baltimore, in regards to its rat problems. No? Well, how about PBS? Is PBS a source of fake news when they aired a documentary called Rat Film about Baltimore's struggle with rats? I'm going to have to fact check President Trump's claim of rat infestation as true given that former Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake said so during her time in office. The Orkin Company has said so, and every year they put out a list of the 10 worst rat-infested cities in America. And PBS, our official government television outlet, has aired a documentary on the subject of Baltimore's rat issues. Let's talk about, case closed. Let's talk about the general livability and desirability for human habitation with regard to Baltimore. The Fox Baltimore station sure seems concerned about this. Airing a study just 5 days ago showing how a Washington, D.C. based personal finance website called Wallet Hub ranked Baltimore one of the least family-friendly cities in a pool of 180 American cities with regard to their desirability for raising a family. Baltimore tied for the highest violent crime rate per capita. You saw the problems with garbage and abandoned buildings, that West Baltimore has in that video in the beginning. Ultimately, though, what the best measure, of any place's livability or desirability to live there is the population growing or shrinking? Baltimore, it's not even close. Baltimore suffered the second highest loss of population of any city in the United States between 2016 and 2017. Only Chicago lost more people, and that's clearly because Chicago has a hell of a lot more people than Baltimore to lose. This is neither a recent thing nor an aberration. After peaking out at just under 1 million people in the 1950s, Baltimore today is hovering at about a population of 600,000 people and dropping. I think the next tick, the 2019 figure, will show it dropping into the 500,000s. A roughly 40% decline in population in one human lifetime, roughly 7 decades. So if that doesn't sound bad enough, the collapse of Baltimore's population is only worsening. Look at how steep the slope of the line is for population loss since 2014. Since the 2018 population is estimated to be at 602,000, give or take a couple hundred, the next line segment would terminate below the bottom line on this graph. It'd be under the graph. Now it's clear what's happening if you take a look at this graph from the Wall Street Journal. The population of African Americans in Baltimore is pretty much flat. Hasn't changed much at all in the up or down direction going back for decades. It's the population of white individuals who are leaving the city in droves. They're turning Baltimore from a majority white city as late as the early 1970s to today, where they barely number 1/4 of the city's population. Fact check, have to say true. Trump is right about people not wanting to live in Baltimore, as the city has done nothing but lose population all the way back to the 1950s. 7 consecutive decades of population loss. The last time a Republican held office as mayor of Baltimore was 1967, when Theodore McKeldin finished his 4-year term. Now, his 4 years, from it looks like 1963 to 1967, mark the only 4 years of Republican administration over Baltimore since the first half of the 20th century. How many of you watching this video were even alive in 1967, the last time a Republican ever held the mayor's office in Baltimore? I know I wasn't. Elijah Cummings took office in 1983, representing the Maryland, a district in the Maryland House of Delegates, District 39 to be specific, and stayed in that seat till 1996. Since April of 1996 till today, 2019, Cummings has been a member of Congress from Maryland, so he's held office representing that area since the early 1980s. Many of you watching this right now, as I mentioned, just earlier, maybe you weren't even born even then, in 1983. And somehow Elijah Cummings wants to try and play off like Trump is the one who has something to answer for, telling the truth about the state of West Baltimore. That's all for this NeoUnrealist. If you want to help the channel out, click like on this video, leave a comment below, hit the subscribe button if you aren't already a sub, click the notification bell and set it to all to keep up with new content. Now, I'd like you to share this video on social media if you're so inclined, because in addition to demonetizing it, I'm going to guess that YouTube, they're probably not going to suggest it either. So if you want to go further with your support and toss your hard-earned dollars, shekels, and drachmas into the tip jar, follow the links below to Subscribe Star, PayPal, or Patreon, if you didn't abandon that ship already. Bid shooters can just click on the green tip pledge button at the bottom of the player. Now, if you're still here to hear this after my long rambling video about the Blight in Baltimore, and you just made more progress toward getting that Die Hard achievement, thanks for watching.